Guys, welcome on into today's stream, today's video. We are live here to finish off the first day of this week, Tuesday, May 31st. And the question of, did oil just top out, at least in the short term? We want to talk about that here because what it just did today, really yesterday, last night into today, is quite alarming. And so I took, we'll cover this in a second. I might take the position off because, honestly, making a gain like that, which I'll show you in a short period of time, you might want to just lock it in. It wasn't a large position. It was kind of just the only day trade idea for the day. But I'm looking at ExxonMobil. We talked about this on the stream last night. Big picture. Here's the big picture chart. And, it wasn't like we had this area, dialed in, perfectly. Like we kind of were anticipating a possible test to this bigger picture uptrend resistance, going back over the past decade and a half. And we came right up to that level. And so far we've been rejecting that. So we couldn't break over $100. Also, $100 is going to be a psychological area of resistance. When people see that, it's like, okay, I'm going to sell at $100. That's going to be a psychological spot to watch. So we got ExxonMobil up there, and then boom, it's been unraveling really the past honestly the past hour. It's just unraveled. It was holding up decently, and then it just completely unraveled. Now I want to pull up really quick. I want to pull up trading. Let me pull up TradingView really quick so you guys can see like the live price action on oil. So let me get rid of this so we can see this a little bit better. Let me zoom myself over a bit. And there we go. Okay, so right now we're looking at oil. It's at 115. Now it's bouncing a bit off of where it fell off from, but I mean, this thing tapped almost, I think it was a couple cents shy of hitting 120. Crude oil, WTI crude oil was literally a few cents shy just a few hours ago from hitting 120. And then just boom, boom, the thing fell off $5, which is a pretty substantial pullback, which that's the reason why we're talking about it. So we'll see basically how this looked yesterday going into this morning. It did not look, it looked good if you were a bull, right? If you wanted oil to go higher, it looked good. Although I feel like a lot of us don't want that to happen because that means higher gas prices, higher inflation, and all that stuff, which is, not going to be something we want to deal with, right? Longer, big picture, right? So and we got this kind of extension in the episode. We try to consolidate here for a little bit. Let me start zooming a little bit. We try to consolidate here in this area right around the 118 to 119 zone today. And then we had this big candle to the upside that was then met by, boom, a massive pressure to the downside. So this is kind of your fake out candle. And you don't know it until after the fact. It's not like, oh, here comes the fake. Like, no, you don't know that. You think, oh, here comes the breakout. That's what you're anticipating, right? However, that's the opposite. Oh, we got the opposite of a breakout. Tried to break out, break down, boom, slammed. Now the question is going to be, how do we handle this area right here? So this is going to be a nice volume node. Also around the 114 down to like 113.50 is going to be your spot to watch. So far we're bouncing, which I would expect after a pretty hard smash down. I would expect a bounce. However, technically it's down today. So oil's down today after potentially looking like it was going to make a pretty big run. So that's why we're mentioning that. It's something we'll be watching in the coming days, obviously to keep us updated, and it's a big player on inflation and all that stuff. So that's what we're going to be watching, why it's worthwhile to mention. That's that. So RDBX curling. Let's look at RDBX. We were talking about that one last night on the stream, I believe, and I had an alert for RDBX for the breakdown of $7 because why was that a key spot? Let's see. It's like that's like the trend line zone. So it's testing that trend line. So for now it's holding it, right? It bounced the trend line on the daily. So RDBX so far so good in a sense, right? But you want to see this thing, it fill the gap back down. You don't want to see it dropping below today's lows. I mean, right now it's sitting at 677, fine, but you don't want to see it really dropping below today's lows. Let me pull this up a bit. Ideally on RDBX. Let me go back to Webull really quick so we could just jump into current position on ExxonMobil. I'm going to probably take this off because I bought these at 320. They're going for 430 by 440 on these puts. I bought ExxonMobil June 17th puts. I'm going to get rid of it. I didn't really play it with any crazy size. I'm going to get rid of this thing. If it hits 450, I'm going to take that off. So I'm going to put a sell at 450 and then we'll see. It's, over $100 for, chilling for the majority of today. I mean, this could go for lower, but In this case, I only have one of these. If I had 5 of them, yeah, then, sell 1 or 2 and then, have the rest and hold them for a bigger move. But in this case, I'm already long anyway of other stuff. So we'll see. Market tried to go green, and it did briefly, and then it just pulled back a little bit here. It's potentially going to come down, test view up. Honestly, it's been showing decent strength, I have to say, today. I was kind of surprised. Although, and NASDAQ, everything, NASDAQ, Dow, S&P, they're all kind of in line, to be honest. However, I think if you look at certain sectors, XBI, biotechs, that's getting nailed today. XBI down almost 4%. Jeez, I didn't even realize that. It was down a lot. I wonder why. I mean, I'm looking at, and we had the biggest gainer on the day, TXMD, I believe, was a buyout. They bought them for $10 a share. The stock was trading here at around $2 a share, so it was a massive, massive buyout play. Bought out for, this is a biotech, I believe, yeah. Pharmaceutical play, it's in the biotech sector. So my thought on some of these, that there's a lot, we're going to be seeing more of this. This is just kind of like the beginning of what is potentially to come across, I think, a lot of biotech stocks. So I'm kind of surprised that given the market was green, at least, at XBI has got some steady pressure all day. It's generally been holding up in this area right around the 67-ish area. So that's where its support is for now. Clear resistance here, triple top around 71.50. So that's where it's got to break above. A couple of days of green in the market looks like it could do that, but again, market's red for now, and we definitely could use a healthier pullback on the S&P. Like S&P coming down to 407 wouldn't be a bad spot. And if it holds 407, that could be your spot today. It came down to 410, so a couple more dollars to the downside would have been at least would have maybe had me thinking about adding into a SPY call if I so had felt the need, but I did not. Day trading Micron, biotech struggling. Yeah, they definitely are. I got the only day trade I have today, which really wasn't necessarily intended to be a day trade, but it potentially could be if it takes my sell out here, is ExxonMobil puts. So Micron, honestly, I'm surprised. Not surprised, but I would have liked it to come down a touch more. Like if this thing came down, where am I going? I'm going for the rectangle. If it came down to the sub 71.50 area, that would have been nice. A really nice spot. For a long, but it didn't come. It came just shy of that, just shy of yesterday's lows, or held yesterday's lows. ExxonMobil took me out, so I got sold at the 4. I bought this for $320, sold it for $450 same day. I mean, $130. Sure, on one contract. It was not even it's just one contract. I was kind of just messing around with a few extra bucks I had cash, and I was looking for a swing, and it ended up working out to be a nice day trade. So again, back to that play for ExxonMobil, going back on ExxonMobil's chart, it was kind of a riskier play because we didn't necessarily establish this area today, and it could totally drop more if oil falls off further. But I was anticipating some resistance up here, and that's exactly what we got. $100 was your spot. Couldn't break up over 100, fell off a few bucks. Oil also crashing off to the downside. I wasn't necessarily anticipating that to happen, but that's definitely helping, right, in a big way. But what you're seeing now on ExxonMobil, which is funny, is not funny, but it's the push and pull. At least earlier today, I was kind of watching the correlation that it was having between ExxonMobil moving up, oil going up, and then the market. And you have that push and pull where oil might come down, but if SPY went up, then ExxonMobil actually had some relative strength. So it was it's not the perfect correlation. So now that SPY was green, now it went red, and oil collapsed, at least intraday. So far, it's collapsed a few bucks. That's why ExxonMobil's taken a tumble, and it's really not that big of a deal. But from the highs, it's down around 3%, intraday, which is a pretty big move intraday. So there's that. That's the only thing that I was looking at. SPY was doing good. I mean, it's only down 0.45. It was down more. It's just not a bad. It's at VWAP right now. It's not that bad. It pulled in, got the little gap down, move up. Now we'll see if it can build these higher lows throughout the day. If it continues. Right now the next low to watch, I'd say, is around this 411.25 area. If it holds over if it holds over VWAP right now, which it's trying to do, it's still looking healthy in my eyes. I'm watching SVXY. Only other short-term option play that I have for a June expiration is SVXY. Briefly got up over $50, but this is as the VIX, as volatility comes down, this is going to go up. Now, do I really care about on a volatility product? Do I really care about a bullish engulfing? I don't know. But we could be setting up for a little bit of a bullish engulfing today if we end up closing up over like 49.75 would be a nice spot to close over on SVXY. I want to see a push up over 50, give it 1 or 2 days, and I'm out. That's it. I already have a sell set on this. I have a sell set at 150 per contract. I have an average at 112. I have a sell for 2 out of 7 contracts at 150. And if it hits, well, I'm not looking. Then the rest, the 5 other contracts, I'm looking for a bigger push, maybe sell them at 175. Dare I say 2, almost 100%. I would be happy with that. Maybe buy 1 or 2 contracts just because the June expiration is coming up and I just don't want to cut it close if I don't have to. That's the idea. So let's see. ELDN, great news today. Superworks at low float, lots of cash, pop 10% and dump. Couple days. Let's see. Let's take a look at the chart. How is this thing setting up? Honestly, you know what? It's dumping off. This could definitely fall off further in the next couple of days. It hit the 10% threshold, so we have the SSR is on. Maybe there was some anticipation of that news. I'm not super tied in. Also, biotechs are having a tough day, so that's another thing too. Biotechs are all getting kind of crushed across the board for the most part, not all, but a lot of them are. And XBI is down like 4%. What is XBI? XBI, yeah, literally down 4%, which is a lot, to be honest, with SPY barely even down. So I'm kind of surprised upon that, which means that Labu's down 12%. Pretty nasty day there, but it is what it is. It's part of the movements for now, and I suspect that has to do with oil, but we're not rallying back, to be honest, as much as I would have wanted to see with oil and kind of pulling back. So I don't know. We'll have to get this a couple of days and see how it progresses. The 10-year is up, but I wouldn't even start to sweat until it's over 2.9. Then it's like, okay, then we could probably start seeing some of the effects across growth and tech and stuff, especially biotech. So it's gonna play they're playing some games for now, but biotechs for today at least, they're not doing too well. IWM, yeah, well that's why. I mean, look at small caps. IWM and biotechs are down substantially more than the overall market. So no one wants to touch these things. People are more inclined to start playing the other names and maybe the larger cap stuff first, it seems like, at least for now. Maybe people are still a little concerned about how things are shaping up. So we'll see if that trend continues. It's kind of been going back and forth between some days small caps are outperforming, some days large caps outperform. It's not like we haven't had a nice steady 2-3 week span of like, okay guys, the small caps have been substantially outperforming or underperforming large caps. Like we can't really get a good trend because we've still been in this chop mode. So bouncing off of lows, until we kind of get more of a trend developing, which we haven't really necessarily gotten. If we get a solid week this week and the S&P doesn't need to go to 440, if it goes up to 425, 430-ish, it starts to trend that way this week, then we got a better feel for how things are shaping up. ELD, I wouldn't jump away if that news, I wouldn't jump away. I would say that that's something to reconsider, lock something in, then look to be adding back lower if it does fall lower. Let's see. I'm seeing some news. Not much like new news. I mean, Biden was meeting with Powell today, I believe. Biden says he'll provide the space the Fed needs to tackle inflation. I mean, I don't know what that means, but okay, whatever. Biden meeting with Powell, and Biden met with Powell and Janet Yellen. So the meeting was very constructive. So I'm not sure how much information we're going to get out of their meeting. I doubt we're going to hear too much. It's probably more so to make sure they're on the same page. At the end of the day, I mean, here's the reality, right? Like we talked about last night. I mean, this is it. You're going to see in the coming months, you're going to see, and I can't wait, it's for CPI come I think it's a week and a half away or whatever, June 10th or 11th is CPI. I can't wait for it, but in the coming months, you're literally going to see, CPI in some categories get the numbers come crashing down, whereas the energy is going to be staying high. So it's like we almost know we're going to get these numbers to come down across other aspects of the economy, other aspects of the CPI. But it's like you need to do whatever you got to freaking do to get oil down. Get it down, and then your inflation's down. Like, that's it. That's it. At least that's how I see it, If you don't, you risk the stagflation situation where now the economy is going to the toilet, and then crude oil is running high, inflation's running high, but the Fed's like, well, we got to raise to curb inflation. But it's like, well, yeah, you're killing the consumers, but like the problem is in your control, out of your control. I mean, at the end of the day, right, the reality behind the oil situation, and the reason why a lot of these countries, not just us, even in Europe, are having such crazy, inflation numbers. I think Germany is like the highest level I've ever seen, or something along those lines. I mean, it's because they're banning the Russian oil. I mean, if you're going to ban Russian oil, and there's nothing like, I mean, I totally agree, like with what they did, but like if you're going to ban the Russian oil, like you took it up, you knew it was coming. Like it's not like, oh, we're surprised. Like no, like you knew it was coming. You did that to yourself. So now it's like, well, now let's figure out a solution. And if there's no solution, then this is what you have to live with. So that's just the game. That's just the nature of it for now. So I mean, it's an interesting kind of place to be, I think, for sure. I mean, especially with going forward, how this stuff shapes up with the other aspects of the economy, which I believe we're really going to see them taking hits in the coming months. It'll be weird, or not weird. It'll be interesting to see what how they're going to handle this, and are they willing to just keep raising into a weakening economy with oil running, or did oil just top out today after it made a massive false breakout up towards that 120 false breakout move, and then is it going to come down this week and oil maybe have a temporary pullback, or at least maybe even a bigger picture top, for the next couple of months? We'll see. Fear and greed. Let's take a look at fear and greed. I haven't checked on this today. Let's take a peek. We are at 22, still at 22. We'll see what this closes up today. 22%, or at least on the scale, still extreme fear. I want to pull up the sentiment survey from last week. We're going to get one out on Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting too. Believe this. On the 25th, well, let's go back to the 25th. So the week ending the 25th. Okay, I get it. So the 25th was right here, the first green day of last week's 3-day run. So Wednesday, it was ending Wednesday. And we were essentially, on Monday, we hit new lows. On Friday, we hit new lows on the S&P and bounced around those lows. So it makes sense why you see most people not bullish, but we got a sub 20% bullish rating on the survey for the next 6 months. So that's a pretty, I mean, you generally don't see that happen too much, under 20%. And on top of that, we saw the highest bearish rating we've literally seen. Not the highest, the second highest, I believe, that we've seen in the past 2 months. The highest we saw was on the week ending on April 27th. And this 53.5% bearish was literally a month later, essentially. So, I mean, if you ask me, people are still, whether you see it or necessarily believe it or not, these are the numbers, these are like the raw numbers that we're getting from these surveys, and people are still bearish. I mean, the only thing is you might see the stock community and you might think differently than the majority of people, but it's everyone, the majority thinks, I would say a lot of us here think differently, at least a little bit differently. We still come in and have our issues with, understanding the fear, greed, understanding emotions, and letting that play into our decision making. It's a constant battle that you can never be perfect. No one's ever been perfect with that stuff. But I would say that you might think, how can everyone be so bearish right here, despite what's happening, despite the sentiment, all this stuff? Well, people still are. People are still being very bearish, and they're getting fed a lot of stuff on CNBC and by the media and whatever, which definitely doesn't help the bullish readings. Which is that a ploy to kind of screw them? Potentially part of the game, SOXL, I'm looking at this guy, is down a little bit today. Yeah, Labu Man is down. XBI is just just a waterfall to the downside today. Interesting. And honestly, I'm thinking about maybe adding another contract here. Well, I snagged $150 or $130 on the ExxonMobil position. So I could probably throw in a few dollars onto the Labus and take the gains, roll them into something like this. September is too close. I would feel like I want to go January. I would want to buy another January, if anything. So we'll see. If this keeps flushing out this week, I might buy one more of those for January. Give myself over 6 months and let it play out. Yeah, Biden talking to Powell today. I'm not sure how much we're going to get from how much info we're going to get from that. I haven't seen too much. I'm seeing more news coming through. White House economic advisor says Biden has not made a decision on student loan debt relief. I mean, it's kind of we don't need to get into that whole discussion, but like that's just a joke in my opinion. It's a mess. It's like we've been saying, I don't care. And I'm someone who has student loans, who's been paying. I have private. I also have some federal as well. So some of it's been paused, but I've been paying more on the privates in the meantime ever since I graduated back in 2020. So, I've still been paying them. It's like I haven't been paying my loans, but if they're not going to, if the federals are not accumulating interest or they are not due, they're not like required to be due, and there's no penalty for that, like I'm going to not pay them and pay down the privates, which has a variable interest rate. So I've been like trying to get that down as much as possible, which should be taken care of hopefully very, very soon. And then I can be, feeling pretty good about it. But that side, at least that's because I have them. So I have that experience, but the issue is not give relief. The issue is fix the freaking system that's destroying people's lives. Right. The problem is a guy who's been paying off his loans at a crazy amount, $1,000 a month for the past 10 years and still has the same balance that he had when he started. It's like, well, teach that person interest, what interest is, because there's a fundamental gap there that people are coming out of school not taking out this insane debt and not understanding that there's something called interest. And so if you don't know how to handle that, you're screwed. Or you could fix the federal loans to be like 1% interest. I don't know. It's just an idea. So the government still will make your money. They'll make their freaking money off everyone who went to school, who wants to be a member of society, whatever, I guess. But it's a reduced interest rate. So you're not going to have the 8% interest, 9% interest rates that some people have had on these federal loans. And they're in this cycle where they can never pay them off because you have $100,000 of debt. Well, that means that in interest every year, you got thousands and thousands of dollars that you got to pay just to pay the interest. And then on top of that, make a slight dent. And most people can't do that, So that's the problem. They got to fix the actual problem. If they don't, we're going to be in the back of the same boat. Now, for those who do understand interest and who understand that stuff, you have an advantage because you know how to potentially maneuver that a little bit better than somebody else who's just like, all right, I got my loan. I'll do a 20-year or I'll do a 10-year payment cycle. I'll do a variable interest rate and my rate's 6%. Is it 8%? Is that bad? I don't know. I'll pay 8%. That seems pretty good to me. Doesn't sound too bad. They don't, people don't understand. So that's the reality. But that's the news I'm just seeing. Powell telling Biden to buy calls. I mean, I think the meeting's over now. So, it seems like ever since past like couple of minutes, it's been pulling back a little bit, SPY at least. EU May monthly CPI went up. Some peeping. I don't know. Well, I think it's going to be different. The only thing, because out in Europe, there's not the same pace. There's a lot of signals across our CPI and just in the consumer that a lot of the categories are topping out, except energy. So like the problem out there is that they're even more reliant on the energy. Like the energy prices are going to be even more impactful, and they've gone up to crazy levels, more than we've even noticed like we're dealing with here. So it's going to hurt them more, and that's why like you're kind of dealing with more issues for them. The key here is the balance, right? How much does some of these categories come down versus how much is energy going up for CPI for us, and then where are we? I mean, we know that it's going to be up this month energy-wise, but how much are other categories coming down? And I believe we saw in the last report, used cars were down a good bit. So used car markets come down a lot. But people know, like just like the housing market, people are kind of already in this boat like, hey, we know it's coming. Everyone's talking about the crash, this and that. Everyone's like talking about all this stuff. Well, I got to prepare. And people are starting to kind of prepare and tighten up themselves, it seems like, as of late. And we'll see if that continues. So that's the thing. I mean, I don't know. I would, unless these, we'll see what some of the predictions are in the coming days, and we'll have a good feel for what the predictions are going into it. But we got an 8.3 reading last month, I believe. The projection was 8.1. If we come in sub 8% on the year, I think the market will see that as a good thing. If we come in over 8, probably sees that as a bad thing, and depending upon how far over 8, but I don't know what the exact predictions are as of yet. I'm not sure if I've seen anything come through. So we'll see. We're liking the XML put idea, XOM. Yeah, I mean, let's take a look. I mean, let's just look at this again. I already took the profits for me, but man, I could have made more money on those. So I had the June 17th $100 puts, and they're going for almost $5 now. So that would have been nice. I guess I should have bought, could have bought two more, could have bought a couple more, whatever. I don't care. For me, it's like I just saw the opportunity and I'm going to take the opportunity. That's it. But yeah, that's coming down in a big way. Let me jump back over to oil really quick so we can see where oil's at. Let's pull it up. I want to let's go to futures. Let's find me some oil. Crude oil futures. Give it to us here. What are we looking at? So yeah, look at this massive candle. I mean, this is a massive candle to the upside that was just hammered down. Here's the 5-minute chart. Let's zoom in on this. Give it a second to load. Yeah, so this thing pops up 120, rejection, smash down. Kind of a bear flag, tries to get back up, build higher lows, and then boom, smash down again. And that's been the pattern for now. I mean, I like the play too. I like it. And as long as you play, you could play even just short. There's a bunch of even short oil ETFs. You can actually go and look at I think SCO. Let me jump back here. SCO. ExxonMobil is taking a hit because the market also pulling back a little bit with this. So you get oil pulling back, market pulling back. That's going to hammer this thing down. So that's why that's getting a bigger move to the downside. SCO, I believe, is the 2X crude oil short ETF. So yeah, it's a $20 stock. So, don't sit here and think to yourself, oh my gosh, I should have made so much money on this, on this play. No, I mean, if you got short or you bought this thing at 2015, it popped to it popped about $1, so 5%. But if you were to play this and just even swing this, which I wouldn't necessarily wouldn't be the best idea. However, if you swung it, it's not the end of the world if you have a stop loss in place. What's your risk? Your downside, I would say, is you give it to today's lows. So essentially the 120 on crude oil. If crude oil pops over 120, get out. But that's going to be here, this 1962 spot. If we start to fall back on this and it pops back below that, that means that oil is going up higher than today's highs. Then just get out. So I could see that as an idea. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Probably. I mean, I would say you missed a decent chunk of the move, or some of the move at least initially. It doesn't mean that you can't play it, but I would say that any pops back on crude oil that get rejected would be the spots to go. So if crude oil starts to push back to the upside, here's a look at crude oil again. If this starts to push back up, gets rejected at, let's say, 116, and then starts to fall off, that could be a better spot to add in or to go into it. So we'll see. Bigger picture though on crude, if you look at the realities in the past month, it's up 10%. So I'm sorry, I'm kind of covering the 10%, but it's up 10% in the past month. It's up 4% in the past 3 months, because that takes you back to essentially literally the spike that we saw at the end of February, early March, back in here. So it's just all it's really done for the month of May. I'll circle the two spots because we're going to be kind of taking a peek at the averages and stuff when it comes to CPI. The two key spots really are going to be, let's go back to April. So if I go back to April 1st is right here. So here's April. And let me get all the way through April. Right to here. So the range of April, we had highs up to about 109, lows down to 93. Okay. So that was your month of April. If you were to go to the month of May, different story here. You have a much, wider range. You have higher lows, and on average, the price is going to be substantially higher. So it's going to be at least a few percent higher on average. So that's going to weigh on the CPI. We were looking at this early on as we started to kind of pull back here below 100, and it looked like, hey, this could be a pullback here. We want to see this thing building lower lows, lower highs if you want inflation numbers to come down in a big way. And that is exactly the opposite of what happened, right? We got the opposite. We kind of got higher highs, we got higher lows. So that's the 2 months that we're essentially going to be calculating the averages and smashing together. It's not like it's going to be that much different. I would imagine you're looking at the average for crude oil for the month of April was probably around the 100-ish, 101-ish area. The average for the month of May is probably going to be closer to 109. So you're probably going to be looking at a 6 to 10%, move to the upside month to month across the average something like that. Just kind of spitting some numbers out, but that's essentially what's been going on. So not like, crazy, but it's still notable. It's still something to be, careful of and watch. Amazon. Let's see what Amazon's doing well today, I believe, right? AMZN. How are they doing? Yeah, 5% today. I mean, Amazon's is got the split coming. Their gap my target is $2,700 on Amazon. I can't wait till they do the split, because then it's going to make it a lot more fun to play the options. Playing the options now around the money and paying $4,900 to get in on one contract is like, okay, for most people it's like, okay, I'm not going to do that. But if you have a larger account, then yeah, great, fine. Who cares? It's just like anything else. But once the stock comes down, then it becomes the playing field becomes a lot more interesting for people to play this thing with a smaller account size. And then you can play different strategies. You can start playing spreads more. I guess you can play spreads now for cheaper, but you can play options more often on Amazon, which I think will be fun. And even buying leaps. Buying leaps right now is like so expensive, because if you want to go out to June, or let's go to January 2024, and you want to buy a leap on Amazon, look at how expensive it's going to cost. It's going to cost you $513,000. That's for 10 contracts. So for one contract, it's going to cost you $51,000 to buy an Amazon $2,400 strike out to January of 2024. I mean, most people's accounts are not even $51,000 if you're going to be more of an active trading account. Like most people's accounts are not at that level. So then that's just one contract for a leap. So it's like almost like you can't play it unless you have a substantial size account, that you can play that and feel comfortable, because most people are not willing to put in half their account, or even 100 all their account into one thing, right? They're going to want to diversify. So if you can put in 10% into Amazon and have a couple contracts, because now if it makes a big run, you can kind of sell one, lock in some gains, and then ride the rest. Makes more sense. But so when the split happens, it should be a lot more fun to play it. Favorite energy stock? Hair's looking tight. I did get a haircut. I have to say I do like it longer on the top. $51,000 leap. No, yeah, it's just insane. I do like it longer up top, generally speaking. So this is probably like a little shorter than I usually have it, but just kind of it's like a summer cut in a sense. It's like 100 degrees here every day, so why not? I definitely lose like 3 years, maybe even 5 years. I mean, I look like I'm like 15 sometimes when I get like a nice tight cut, but that's not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing, even though I'm almost 24. Favorite energy stock? Honestly, I like ChargePoint. I believe they have earnings today. If not tomorrow, maybe it's tomorrow. I like ChargePoint a lot. It's an electric vehicle charger. It's not like the internet. I don't like if you're gonna get any oil exposure, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all right now. You're guessing, and the thing is, you're guessing. Could things keep going? Sure, but also like you have essentially everybody, like all these countries, like they know like the biggest cost of inflation right now, risk wise, is going to be the energy prices. So like it's like, okay, we need to get them down, and I don't want to necessarily bet upon everybody knowing that needs to happen and then figuring out a solution. Then all of a sudden I'm long in oil and I'm long ExxonMobil, trying to go from 95 to 120 when I think we can get more upside. And then it goes from 95 back to 75, in 2 months. And all of a sudden there's some news and whatever. And then oil comes down. Like I'm not going to play that risky game, at this point in time, to me, but maybe some people want to play it for shorter term stuff, maybe. But for me, it's just like, eh. So here's your kind of, I guess, downtrend on ChargePoint. We're not testing it yet, but I like ChargePoint a lot. Electric vehicle chargers. The reason why I like them a lot is because I can see that I don't see this space going anywhere. The valuation has come back a lot, which I like to see. It could totally go lower, but it's come down substantially. And I believe they'll be growing into this going forward. And I also see them everywhere here. Like in Austin, Texas, I see them everywhere. So they're in my apartment building's like garage. We have literal ChargePoint chargers like in the garage for people who have like any EVs. So I just see it all the time, and that's my bias, I guess. But from what I've seen, I do like what I've seen. I want to see the earnings today and get a better feel. You can probably get a better read on that today. We'll see, or tomorrow, whenever this week's earnings coming out this week. Not like I'm like sitting there like, oh my gosh, going to play calls, puts on the earnings. I don't care. It's more of a longer term, stack it away and forget about it type of thing. Let's see. White House says sending rocket systems to Ukraine are still under consideration. They said that they won't send long-range rockets for use beyond Ukraine. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be seen as a... So here's my thing, and I'm sure a lot of stuff under the surface here along like the lines is not talked about. We don't know. But why do we need to know that? Like, don't tell us. Don't make it public. Just send the stuff to Ukraine. Just do it if you're going to do it. Like, don't tell like Putin, hey, we are going to send Ukraine rockets. And like, doesn't that just tell you like, hey, they're helping out like that? It's like, I don't know. Maybe that's a tactic. Maybe it's not. Maybe it matters. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe they were going to find out anyway. Who cares? But it's like, maybe you just do it and not say anything. And, hopefully that's better than telling everybody we're going to be sending you rockets. And then like Putin's like, okay, well, they're sending rockets. Like, it's like just blatantly out here. Maybe that, I don't know. CHPT got it speculating that oil is going to come down. I have to say that the meeting had to. I don't know. I don't want to be like, hey, and put words in Powell's mouth. But my guess is Powell's like, we are expecting what we're doing from raising rates to really bring down CPI across all of these categories, except energy. The biggest thing is going to be getting oil down. And we can't do that here at the Fed. That's beyond our control. And it's up to, the administration and I guess them figuring out how the heck they can get prices down various different ways. But that's essentially how I would imagine this meeting went, if I had to guess. And obviously, that's just coming from, someone who has no insight into how this stuff kind of goes. But I would guess that's why that had to be a pretty good part of what they're talking about. EV's been beaten down. All EVs except Tesla have been destroyed, essentially. Like no one even talks about these stocks anymore. Here's Tesla, by the way. Let's look at Tesla's daily chart. It's still holding up decently. I would say Tesla up towards $800 could be a better short opportunity. But then again, would you want to short it right now with the market be gaining some steam? Maybe probably not. Tesla's one of those stocks in my view, though. For me, it's like stack it away and forget about it. I would want to. Tesla's a stock that right now, and that could change in a couple of years maybe, but it's a stock, this and Amazon, there's some other ones, maybe even ChargePoint out there too, but ChargePoint could be interesting to see how that space develops and goes, and like do we see companies kind of buy other ones out or kind of, take over other ones, or like who becomes the emerging winner in the space? Like that will be fun to see. There's a bunch of them. Blink Charging is another one that comes to mind, one of the higher shorted stocks in the market. I think it's like over 30% short. And it's been like that for a long time. But Tesla's one of those stocks, like I have a lot of faith in this company. And I view it as like the Apple of a decade ago in a sense. Like there's no stopping the growth of this company. It's not just an EV company, as a lot of people have now come to realize. But it's not just an EV company. There's a lot more there. But it's like I can look at this thing and say in 10 years, they're going to have more market share, in my opinion. There are other competitors out there, and that's the whole short argument is like, do you think that there'll be other competitors? But right, the way I see it is like Tesla is going to be the Apple of cars. Like that's how it's going to be in 5-10 years. Like you have a Tesla or you don't, and it's like the same thing with the Apple Android. That's my biggest I want to say that's not the only only argument I have for why I like it that much, but like that's one of the biggest things, at least in my view, of how I see it and how I see it becoming over time. And that's kind of how it feels. So it's like, everyone with an EV these days, like, yeah, Tesla, right? Oh, no, I got this, or I got that. It's like, oh, really? They're cool. I mean, the Ford Mustang Mach-E's have been growing on me in a big way. I like those a lot now. I've ridden a couple now, and they are pretty darn nice. But from people who I've talked to who either drive them or have them, they're like, well, compared to Tesla, if they've driven both, it's not as smooth, but it's a nice look. So I mean, I don't know. I would have to see, if I ever really got to that point of like oh, I want to buy one. But for now, I don't really care to. There's no need for me to do that. So it is what it is. White House says Biden does not support a ban on the sale of all handguns. Okay. Biden is looking at executive action on guns. Well, we'll see how that ends up shaping up. I mean, I don't know. That's like you have such a hard two sides to that argument across this country that it's difficult to say like there's a simple solution. And realistically, like at the end of the day, like like the simple solution to stop the stuff from happening is pretty obvious, but it's not that obvious given the current divide we have, right? So how can you do? I don't know. I think there's a lot of things they can do, but there's a lot of stuff they can do in the meantime to make it a little bit more difficult for people to just get their hands on some stuff. I think that would be step one, at least something along those lines, and then see how things play out from there. But not a good situation either way. I mean, realistically, what is your opinion on shipping stocks like ZIM? Oh yeah, when it comes to oil too, oil going so high, it should be a good thing for EVs. It should be, you would think, be bullish on EVs. All right, so ZIM, we got let's see. I had a bunch of lines here. We can get rid of these. Okay, so this is pulling back a little bit here. Let's see. Here's your trend. I mean, this is how I would be seeing it right now. Simple. Here's your this is kind of almost an ascending wedge. It's kind of like wedging, where you had a lot more range and volatility on the back half of this wedge, and it's tightening up. If we crack below $60, I would say this could be a nice short back down. If this cracks below $60, this could be it could have a decent chunk to go to the downside. That's my only take on it. I haven't followed it fundamentally enough to be like, oh, here's my fundamental thought on the sector and this stock. But technically speaking, if we crack below 60, that trend starts to break. This might have a bigger move down. GRNQ. What's up with this guy? How is she doing today? Curling a little bit the past couple of days. She's curling a little bit more volume today, though, than the past 600,000 shares, which is nice to see, relatively speaking. Haven't had that many shares traded since the 23rd. But even that, it's above the average, roughly speaking, for the past 2 months. So that's good to see. A little bit of volume. Want to see that continuing to curl up. 30 cents is your sport now. Let's see if it builds higher lows day by day. It's been doing that the past couple of days. But let's see if it continues. That's what we want to look at. Metamaterials, I think was, let's see, last time we looked, it was struggling in that $2 area. Yeah. Same thing so far. I mean, it tried to get up there again today. Now, it could keep going, building higher lows, but it's showing you that this up towards that $2 area is very strong resistance on not very strong, but it's a stronger resistance on metamaterials. So you want to see this thing getting up over the highs of the 23rd, was that last week? Yeah, the 23rd was last week, on Monday, I believe. So you want to see it getting up over 198, really over $2, and then it needs to hold. So that's going to be your spot. So for now, it's building the support, 163 over the 160s now, and building higher lows. But you want to see that thing continue to build. Not a great look today, but then again, it's up and the market's down. So it's also not a bad look on MMAT. Mullen had a pump. Let's see. Let's look at Mullen. Mullen did pump today. Look at that volume on this thing. Did they have some news? I think it had to have some news. There's no way this just randomly pumped. I'm going to guess Mullen had news. Let's jump over and just quickly peek on it and see what it is. Because they've been talking about, they've had some battery news. They've had a bunch of stuff going through. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, here it is. So they announced, the headline reads well. They announce impressive solid state polymer battery tests. I don't know enough about the technology to tell you if it's impressive to me or not, so I can't really speak on that. But got Gotta think it's a good thing. It will be interesting to see what Hindenburg. You can go check on Hindenburg and see what they say, because they had a short report on Mullen. But the CEO saying that he's impressed. I mean, the CEO is supposed to be the biggest cheerleader. The CEO is supposed to say, yes, we're doing great. We're fine. Everything's awesome. Like, that's what the CEO is supposed to say. So, if that's where the impressed comes from the CEO, I mean, that's not really, in my opinion, very valid of a note to quantify these results on. So I can't speak on that, but that's the news. So headline reads well, and it seems like it's doing decently off of the headline. Let's see. They're pleased with the results. They're in line. Let's see. They will continue to test additional parameters. So they're going to have probably more PRs coming on the future. And Mullen's a classic, great penny stock. I mean, you have a stock that, let's be honest, the guys behind this guy, the CEO, like, they 100%, they know how to play this game. And I think Hindenburg pointed that out in their short report. Not that it matters, to be honest, too much, but they know how to play the game. So when things start looking pretty bad, they know, like, we got to pump this bad boy up. Let's pump our stock. Let's get some more eyes on it again. And that's kind of what happened. It fell back under $1. All right, it's losing some steam. Here we go. Let's give it some juice. And they essentially did. So we'll see if this continues. I'm not super, interested off of a pump like that, because you're up 50% from where it was literally on Friday. You could have bought it for much lower. But if it starts to kind of calm down, it could be a better spot to maybe pick something up. I think Mullen could totally go for another run. You just need the market to give it some juice, which I'm not really too sure, to be honest, if the market's ready for that yet or not. So we'll see. But, we want to be seeing small caps. We want to be seeing spec stuff. You want to be seeing growth, starting to outperform the S&P. So it just doesn't have to, but starting to, pick up and do a little bit better and hold some strength. And that's what you'd want to be seeing on that front. All right, oil's trying to come back up a little bit off the lows. Hit 114. Now it's at 115.50. So we'll see what happens here. But I'm kind of watching this spot. Where is it? I want to be watching. Kind of this is the spot for me now on oil. Right here between 115.50 and 16.50. So this is going to be kind of a spot to see if oil gets rejected by this consolidation, the past consolidation that we saw. Does it reject here, or does it kind of push through? That's what we'll be watching for. How do you feel about PayPal? I feel like I should look about. I think so too. I do like PayPal. For me, it's like I don't know if I'm like, if you want to get super diverse, then sure, like PayPal is a good one I think to add in. I like Amazon, as my I think Amazon by itself is like a really diverse company as it is. So I like that. But PayPal, man, I mean, down here, I like this. I like this spot. Under $100, in my opinion, on PayPal is probably great for the long term. Not something to be worried about next week, next month, but something to think about in the next 5 years. Like, is PayPal going to be higher than where it's at now? Will they grow? Unless some craziness goes down with the economy, you're probably looking at a decent buy right now, especially after the run it's had. A much, much better risk reward. But it's funny. Now we can kind of get a feel, but just all of us get a feel for how this stuff kind of goes. We've been through the crazy runs to the upside. We've been through some crazy runs to the downside. So the way that I've seen things, it comes down to looking at macro first. So not that macro, you don't need to know macro to be a good investor or a good trader. You don't need to know that stuff. But if you want to be into the swing environment, right? If you want to try to swing some stuff, you have to have a good handle on the macro. Outside of a hot market, right, it becomes very difficult to be very sustainable long term when it comes to swinging stuff. If you're intending to try to get out before stuff drops lower and then get in before stuff runs higher, right? If you're going to try to play that game, you got to have a good feel about the macro, which we've really had some great examples across some of these names. But on the way back up on some of these stocks, if you're looking at a stock and you're like, I wish I can get the stock lower. The valuation seems a little bit high. Price seems a bit high. The earnings don't seem to live up to maybe what I want them to be living up to. It's like, please just wait. You might have to sit back on the sidelines, and PayPal could technically go higher from here. But if the company, or let's just say let's look like a Facebook or even an Amazon, these stocks could go higher over time. But in 3 years, if the market kind of isn't isn't super, super great. It kind of chops around. Even though Amazon might be higher, their sales, their revenue, their profits might be much larger in proportion, so that the valuations now actually come down a bit, and it might be a better deal, technically speaking, on the surface in 3 years. So when you have that feeling of like, I'm not sure, especially on a swing trade idea, the answer is almost always wait. Almost always wait. Be patient. There's no rush. There's no rush to jump in. If you're going to try to get cute, then make sure you're willing to cut losses quick and take profits relatively quick as well onto moves up, or if you're shorting moves down, if you're going to try to get cute and try to play things like that. That's the biggest thing I would say that we've learned from the past, 2 years. Let's see. Mullen CEO knows how to pump. I mean, I look at, by the way, SPY is about to go green again here. They definitely do. So the thing about that is that's good and bad, because that's not a stock that I would want to be buying on spikes, but it's a stock that I would be looking at when things get quiet. It makes a lot more sense. Kind of like a BBIG almost. I don't know about the CEO there, but the stock has spoken for itself, and it tends to be a very nice one to buy on the dips. Also a funny one too, where this is a funny stock, BitNile. The CEO bought a crap ton recently. Let me go pull it up. I believe, let's go to Open Insider. OpenInsider.com, and I go to Nile. What's his name? Milton Alt, whatever his name is. Look at this. So this guy was like previously the CEO, now he's a COB, whatever he is. He's an executive, more than a 10% owner of the stock. This guy, you look at insider buys. We always look at insider buys. Oh man, and insider's buying a penny stock. That's a good sign. The stock might go up. Like if insider's buying, that means they think it's going to go up. This guy has been buying this stock since it was in the 2s. I'm sure it was even higher. He was buying in the 2s, in the 1s, in the now sub 1s. Guys, his last buy in March was at 88 cents. The stock fell down to like 22 cents. 22 cents. Insane. And now, what do we got? He just doubled down. Like he literally doubled down. He bought 5 million shares at 31 cents. So what is that telling me? That tells me that he's like, I need to get my average the heck down because I got too many shares. And he had owned at the time, I think like 9 million shares. So he had to increase his position in a big way to get that average down. So now his average might be sub 1, maybe up in the 90s, 80s, I don't know, something like that. 5 million shares at 31 cents. So maybe, I want to say maybe because the market's been the market. So there is no regard to like a insider buy of this magnitude. You'd think it would move things. And it did, I believe, initially off the initial news of that insider buy. It popped the stock a little bit off the bottom. But this is the market just being relentless to you, Doesn't matter. Let's see some more news from the White House. White House says Biden does not believe in hardening of schools as part of response to mass shootings. I'm not really sure what hardening of schools means. I'd imagine that means more security, I guess, stepping up security. Yeah. Let's see. Webull is shorting Mullins. They withheld the news. I have no idea. We will announce the news late, and that's why it moved. Is that what happened? Is that how it played out? It started to pop here at 8:30 this morning, which I believe is when the PR came out. I'm not sure if that was also off. PR says 8:30 here from Seeking Alpha. I don't know if it came out earlier somewhere else, but at 8:30 is when the stock popped, so I don't know. Well, this is what the chart tells me. GGPI, we talked about last night. Only thing about this that I'd be concerned about is that it does have a bit of hype around it, and so unless the market starts to go risk on, which it has not done really yet, there's been little hints that it's trying to turn, but it hasn't really told us, hey, it's risk on approach time. This is something that I think that post merger could see a sub 10 a sub 10 dump, and then that's the buy, in my opinion. It's a sub 10 flush, and then that's when you want to be picking it up before they potentially rip it back up or whatever. But I could see some games being played here. I could see this thing falling under 10 post-merger, which is the only risk. So we'll see. RDBX. I want to pull that one up in a second here too. XML massive green. I'm curious. We got to look at Bitcoin. I'm curious what Bitcoin is. I haven't checked on Bitcoin in a second. We'll take a look at that in a second too. Because in the news last week. Interesting. The news already came out last week. Interesting. Well, sometimes these press releases, well, it's a PR that gets the volume, right? If there's no one that knows, like the news could be out, but no one knows, like if you're following, like that's where you can kind of find some arbitrage to some of these companies. If you're following a stock super close, then yeah. The only problem, nothing against Mullen. I don't know. I'm just looking at what we're seeing right now and how it's moved. Only problem is that like the mindset that people have when they start, like I've been there a million times. Like I just understand, and the things go down, 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 and you are looking and trying to find every ounce of reasoning to support your conviction or your position, your long or short. And sometimes it doesn't just work. It's not as linear and it's not as perfect as as you want it to be. So just be careful. That's the only problem with some of these things. Like this is a play that, on dips is probably a decent buy under $1. And if it rips back up, yeah, could it go for more? Sure, but I'm not interested in playing it up here for a swing. It's already up 50%. It's not my style. Maybe it's someone else's style, not mine. RDBX, the only problem with this guy is that I believe so far it's down. We'll see what tomorrow brings, but to me, this is it could if it holds up, it's great. It's holding the support right now. It's holding the trend pretty much right around where it fell today. If it falls below today's low tomorrow, that's concerning. That would be a concern of a trend break. I have just seen this chart too many times. Like, yeah, this isn't the run. Sure, I don't know. Maybe it's not. But again, you have a move to $11, massive push up, big pullback, falls to 2, gets back up, starts a push. You get up to 9, almost 10, you fail. And then that was telling me, hey, so far we try to test those highs. We fail. We couldn't make a new high. Now we fall off. If we bounce from here at this trend line and go for higher, break up over the 950, boom, then we're going to make a real run at this 11. If we break 11, awesome. Could be a much bigger move. If we don't, fail again. That's just kind of the progression of it. So I would say that you're much better off buying dips, and the risk reward right now versus today's lows is so much better than buying the thing up over $9. So, but if the trend line cracks, I wouldn't be surprised if this thing unravels and falls to the 50 SMA, which is down here in the sub 4 area. I could see it falling sub $5, very, very quickly if this trend cracks and it starts to unravel. So it's just a downside risk that you have to make sure you're ready for. What's XML? Let's look at XML. XOM. Pull up the 5-minute. Yeah, it's a pretty big bounce, but hey, it's trying to build a little bit of a bottom around 96. Been animal multiple times from $79 to $4. Awesome. That move to 4 was really nice. I thought honestly, well, I guess the market wasn't really ready for it. The market was pretty tough. I thought we could see, to be honest, on Mullen, based on the moves it had. I guess if you go back to March, if the market was a little bit better, maybe if we get a better continuation move to the upside, I still think this thing could go 5+, as a really big squeeze out. Do I think it will stay there? Probably not on a spike. If it makes a nice over the course of months to years, if it gets over 5, then yeah, I think that's more here to stay. But if it gets there in a couple of days or weeks, then I doubt it stays that high. Maybe it falls back off a good bit, but I think it can go over $5. The range is totally there. The chart has a range. It's just that the market needs to heat up for small caps, and it just seemingly hasn't been there yet. I mean, we're almost flat on the S&P. Meanwhile, IWM today is down 1.2%. Looking back, glad I sold my IWM calls on Friday, I guess. I think it was Friday. I think it was Thursday and Friday I sold them. But yeah, I guess it worked out decently. But I had July, so but we're at resistance, so it was not a bad spot to take them off, and then you can always reconsider. But yeah, those have been underperforming today. XBI down. Okay, it's bouncing a little bit, down only 3% now. So this has been a substantial underperformer today as well. I slowly have been getting filled on this Mesa, 5 contracts at a time. I've just been putting good till canceled bids at like 20 cents, 15 cents in that range on the January $5 calls. So it's like a super kind of risky play, but a couple contracts here, a couple contracts there. I'm looking for that as a possible small capper. Would love it if oil does bottom or top. This would be a good play. Kind of a double bottom right here too off the 250 area. So it looks decent. It looks decent if you ask me. Trying to hold up. Facebook hitting 205 this week. Let's see. And then skills. We got to check back on skills. Haven't checked on skills in a while, it seems like. Facebook 205, that's very realistic. That's like, 50 SMA, which is the highs. Yeah, that would be a good spot of resistance to watch. 205 would be, if I was in Facebook, which it looks like it's building nicely higher lows, I would say 205 would be the first target. That looks like that could happen in 2 days. That could happen. It could happen this week with strength. The market needs to be there though. Today I think is proving to you. We'll see how continuation goes. But despite oil, which by the way, even though despite oil's run, oil has pulled back from where it was. Oil was at 120 or just shy of 120. It's pulled back substantially from the highs. If that continues and it falls off further this week, that's going to be great for inflation. It's going to be great for the market. Just looking ahead, the market's going to be like, oh, that's good. We'll watch that and the 10-year. Look at a couple of these things and how the market responded today. Like it's trying to actually, it dipped. It was down 1% earlier today, but it's bounced S&P, but it's bounced back. The NASDAQ's green. SPY is slightly red. Dow is slightly red. Decent strength. And if you ask me, and it's like kind of taking that little pullback that you need. Not like a gut check. Not like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're down 5% or we're down, all of a sudden we're down 2%, 2.5% today. It's like, whoa, back to the crazy volatility. Like the volatility's kind of been in line. And we held the dip, and we've been building higher lows on the S&P since. So it honestly looks pretty strong. If that continues, Facebook to 205 this week is very realistic. It's a very realistic spot. Now this week, you buy Friday calls, and it's like, you give yourself a time constraint. You obviously take on a lot more risk than you might, if you were to buy out. At least go out to like mid to late June, even July. Buy yourself some more time. Yeah, it could be a little bit better play, but. No update from the Biden J-PAL meeting. I believe that Biden was saying that he wants to keep the Fed's got room. They got a little bit of a nice long leash to do what they got to do to get inflation down. But they said that the meeting was constructive. That's all we got. We didn't get much else on that. So it's just like, okay, nothing really crazy coming out of it. But it's my guess, as we've been saying, is Powell's like, hey, we're gonna get CPI down across the categories that we can control. We can't control energy and oil, like we can't do that. So it's like that's the thing that you got to fix if you want inflation to really come down. And they've said it too. Nothing against not political in the sense that they said, hey, our number one goal is to get inflation down. Number one goal is to reduce the price of the pump. All these goals. Like, yeah, well, okay, then you got to actually figure out how to do that because it's not happening. It's gone the opposite way, So like that's what it comes down. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like I don't know what else you're gonna like. There's not much else just to think. Oh, it's this complicated. No, it's pretty straightforward. It's like you get oil down, you get energy down, and we get inflation down in a big way. That's the game. You could get inflation down CPI. You could get that down slightly and little by little with other categories and the Fed continuing to raise rates. Yeah, it'll come down, right? But not going to be as fast as if you nail down oil and you get oil down. So again, today, new high, 462. New high today for a regular gallon of gas. California, you're paying over 6 on average. Kansas is the cheapest. I'm seeing Kansas at just under $4.13 a gallon. So if we got to all head over to Kansas and fill up. Georgia, I'm surprised. Georgia's $4.13 too. Interesting. Maybe that's an error. I don't know. But Kansas is the cheapest. It's been the cheapest in Kansas, Oklahoma area for pretty much the entirety. It's just, where it's the cheapest gas you're going to get. Here, $4.25 roughly. Last I paid was $4.09, I believe. Got a half a tank left, so we'll see how long that can last us here. But it's not like that bad. Like realistically, if gas prices went up over time, like inflation has kind of taken stuff up, we'd be paying, $10+ a gallon, but we're not. Yeah, we're hitting new highs, but like realistically, like it's not that painful, grand scheme of things, in my view. If we start to push up, on average as a country up over $5-6 a gallon, that starts to get more painful. But for now, it's not like it's bad, but it's not like it's the end of the world, relative to how much other stuff has gone up. Like, okay, like, yeah, it's up a lot, but it's like people can afford that. If they start getting up over 5-6 on average, it starts to get a little bit unrealistic in my view. So we're getting close to like it really being a pressure point, but what's that? Nice Ibliscop will put on ExxonMobil. Nice. Skills, yes. SKLZ. Jeez, man, this thing is low. How much lower can it go? It can keep going lower. It can go a lot lower. Let's check in on FinViz. What are their numbers coming in as? Let's see. Skills. What do we got? Give it to us. Oh, we don't have. Price of sales 1.89. Not bad. Probably. I don't know what their PE and stuff, and we'll see how that develops over time. But market cap has come down massively. I remember this is like a $2+ billion market cap stock at one point. Market cap is $745 million, and they've done almost $4 million in sales last year. They got about $1.26 in cash per share, so they got looks like 450, almost $500 million in cash. Market cap is 700 mil. They did 400 mil in rev last year. Looks like over the past 12 months. It's probably this valuation is coming in. It's coming down to a much more reasonable level. So I kind of like it. I mean, as I feel like we've been saying for a while, but down here, I mean, support right now is at 150. So you want to see it holding over 150. Lows are 130, 138. That's your low. So, yeah. What's ExxonMobil, man? Oh, man. Now I'm not getting FOMO, but I'm feeling the FOMO of like, oh, man, I could have held. Jeez, more lows. That's funny. It's funny how that just unraveled today. Even though oil's kind of holding up too. What are my options at worth? 515 by 525. Could have been like almost 100% in a day, which is nuts. Timing, all about timing there. Labu's still down. So biotech's gonna hit the hardest today. What's this? Oh, my SVXY. Oh, we're back over 50 on SVXY. So this is essentially you go long SVXY and then this is essentially shorting volatility, shorting the VIX. So that's a nice bounce. Up over 50 is a good look on this guy. So honestly, my contracts could get taken out soon. Let's see. No, it hasn't got taken out yet, but it could get taken out. Could get taken out today if we get one more little push on the market and volatility kind of flushes a little bit more. You see what Sava did today? Cannot find any news. Let's see. Oh, wow. I don't know. Let's double check if I can. I'm assuming that there's not going to be anything here. There must have been some sort of rumors or some social media pump in a sense. I'm going to guess. Let's see if we can find something here. Sava. What do we got? And what's going on? Seeking Alpha article. 3 catalysts that could decide bull versus bear debate. Could be that catalyst article coming out. I wonder why. Let's see. They're recruiting for their clinical trial, it looks like, I guess, potentially. So there's some rumors of that going on. Yeah, it seems like that's what, I guess that's the news. I mean, I don't really see too much. NRSN. No, it's not Sava. Yeah. I don't know. It seems like it could have been just an article published on Seeking Alpha or even somewhere else. A couple articles get published. It's also a short squeeze candidate against on this list. Yeah, it's up there. So, and it's also a prior runner. So when this thing kind of gets some volume, it could bring in some more. It could just kind of pick up pick up and keep on pushing. So it would have been a nice short though on the backside for sure. I'm seeing a lot of people who played it both ways. Be careful though on that. If you're going to short stuff like this, which is it's a pretty pretty quick moving stock, just be careful because there will come a time, probably at some point soon, where we get a wipe out type of move, or we get a stock that goes on a couple 100% run, dare I say 1,000% run in about a week type of a thing. That just absolutely annihilates all people who are trying to short it. Like that will come soon. So be careful. And so on a play like this, you want to wait till the backside starts to establish. No need to start adding into a short on the way up without it having established a backside and you establishing a risk level is the only thing I would recommend on that. Because people are going to get a little too excited because everything has been easy shorts on the sub spikes up. Oh man, it's going to come back down harder. It's going to be a great short. It's been working until it doesn't work, until that turns. Quit driving, reduce the prices. I do walk around. I mean, luckily, that's one thing to think about too. Been looking at my lease isn't up until the end of the year. Literally the lease is up like December 31st, which kind of sucks because if I have to move, I have to move out on New Year's. But because prices in downtown Austin have gone just skyrocket high, it's just been insane. But then I'm like, well, you got to weigh it. Prices across Austin in general have gone up. So if I was to move somewhere else, well, now that requires more driving, okay, with gas, with a car, insurance, all that stuff. Okay, that requires all that. And if I want to come to downtown and there's going to be paying for parking, you got to add all these things up. So honestly, it does, there's a lot of push and pull on that. So we'll see. Hopefully my building doesn't jack the rent. There's no rent control here, so they can jack it as much as they want if they wanted to. And realistically, they could jack my rent 50%. They jacked, I think it was up 20, 25% last renewal. So they could jack it up, again, 25, which isn't terrible. I would take it based on the current going rate around here. It's not that bad, but obviously always looking for some new stuff. There's a bunch of new stuff coming up. So if I can squeeze one more year out of where I currently am at a relatively cheap, hopefully price, then there'll be seven other buildings nearby to choose from, in a year and a half, 2 years. And then, hopefully that stuff comes down or there's other options. And if I can pay the same price somewhere else, maybe it makes more sense. And we'll see. But yeah, I get it. I get it when it comes to just saying you screw driving, man. I mean, just walk or just stay home. Let's see. That's that. Not too bad of a day. Kind of flat. No, yeah. Pretty chill day, honestly. Even though if we finish red, it's not a bad, massive, oh my gosh, freak out day. The biggest news is on oil. The biggest news is oil. What's ExxonMobil at? ExxonMobil keeps pushing on lower. It seems like the biggest news is here. I mean, let's go jump on oil really quick. Yeah, this is where the news is at. I mean, massive move up, crack down. To me, that could be a blow off top. That could be the blow off top and a lot of volume on this move back down. We'll see what happens, but very curious to see if this does crack down further and, fail further on this week. If it does, that'd be a great look for inflation. By the way, the 10-year is kind of pushing on up here. Let's look at the 10-year. Bonds. Get rid of this. The 10-year is kind of creeping ever so slightly. Here's the 10-year. Yeah, look, it broke the downtrend. I'm not super worried until it gets back over 3. But yeah, you'd want to see the 10-year, start to get stuffed up around here, ideally, is what you'd want to see. It's been leading the way, so we'll see how this ends up shaping up. Rents are scary right now. Oh, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. You can't imagine renting, but then it's well, definitely can't imagine buying right now either. I feel for a lot of people too. So, especially in a place that doesn't have rent control, I mean, you can just let things just keep going, running rampant. Tips on cutting losses miss my problem. I could get good profits and then they come. My losses go too hard. That is one of the biggest issues. Still, I have the same issue. But in terms of a tip, you have to there's no rush, right? There's no need. We all get trigger happy in terms I gotta get in, right? The thing is relax, I don't know, maybe going for walks in the morning, maybe going for walks just once a day to calm yourself down at night. I don't know, whenever you have time. Maybe that helps. Maybe people meditate. I don't meditate. Maybe I should try it. Maybe it's good. I don't know. I'm open to trying it out. But like, you need to come into a point of like, there's always, it's very easy early on to get caught up like that, but it's like, there's always something else. There's always something else. So there's no rush. And if I miss it, like today, AMC, I was trying to set up my account here, or not my account. I was trying to look at like, try interactive brokers and play with a position here. And so I had an AMC alert come in and I'm like, oh my gosh. But I saw the opportunity. It was like a 16 hit and then a flush, and it couldn't break over 16. And that's what essentially my play was. If it can't break over 16, then I want to short it. So it tried to break it in pre-market, I believe. Then in the open, we got up there, boom, rejected. That would have been an immediate short, but I was looking to try to do it, and then I couldn't get my hands on stuff fast enough. We had this massive dump from 16 all the way down to 15.25. I missed it. There's no rush, because if you get in something like that and it reverses against you, it's so easy to now let it go because you just missed your entry. So it's patience first, and then second, before you get in the trade, you also have to have patience to say, okay, I'm going to click the button right now, but if it goes here, I'm out, and if it goes here, I'm taking profits. And this is what I'm going to do if it does this. If this, then I do this. And you have to stick to that plan before into the trade. And if the plan sucks, and if you suck at doing that and that doesn't work out for the next month, guess what? You're going to come back every day and say, here's what I did. Here's where I went wrong. And you note those mistakes, and you figure out how you can improve upon that for the next time. And so if the mistake ends up being you're cutting losses too quick, okay, I'm cutting loss. I'm not giving it enough of a leash because it ends up pushing back up and then reversing, or opposite, right? Or you're taking profits too early. Let things work, right? You'll be able to kind of dive deeper into what you're doing wrong, what's the mistake, as you have the data to kind of play off of. And that comes with, the experience, comes with the patience, and just relaxing and just saying, if this, then this, and that's it. Almost like a robot. Great day considering how much you gained fraud. No, I think it is too. I mean, realistically, right? Didn't give it all back like we usually do, so that's an awesome sign. Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, I would have to say the same. Let's take a look at the S&P back to SPY. Ooh, dump into the close. Well, I mean, it's not that bad if it can hold up, over 4. If it finishes over 413, hey, that's, to be honest, not a bad day. Kind of just in this consolidation, still pretty much, all we gave back is kind of some of the squeeze out from the end of the day on Friday, which, I mean, is it that big a deal? Nah, no, not really, So it's not a bad spot to be. No, everyone, and I get trigger happy too, but I've just come to the, now it's like, relax. Like that AMC trade, yeah, would it have worked if I had taken the short even after the fact? Yeah, it would have worked, but it would be building bad habits for the future, that if we were in a choppier environment and we didn't get as much follow through on that move, or less range, which eventually there won't be as much crazy range up and down that we're seeing in the market right now, it's not going to work. So that would have been maybe good now, make a few bucks now, but it would have potentially been a habit that ends up losing me money in the future. So that's something, always think of it. Ring the bell. Just close them. Close it right now. I think it's a pretty decent day. Again, all considered, not a bad day. Not a bad day, especially with the oil situation. We'll see how that plays, and it looks like you're going to flush further into the close. Down about 0.5%, a little over 0.5%. We'll see. 10-year, 2.87. I want to see this thing coming back down. I just want to see it struggle around 2.9. If it struggles there, that would be a good sign, but it's been pretty volatile too. Not a bad day unless you had calls. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course, the SPY polls, right? And my literal sell order is on the ask for this SVXY. It's probably not going to get hit. Maybe tomorrow. And then watch, we wake up tomorrow morning and the market's down like 7%. Of course. But yeah, if we got a push up into the close instead of a push down, this SVXY could have hit. But now the market's closed. We did close over 413, so there's that. I guess it's a positive. But no, yeah, across. Funny thing, my small caps, all of my I only have three. My three small caps were green, but IWM and XBI were fat red, surprisingly, which is interesting. But yeah, not a bad day, I would say for sure. Not a bad day. Not a bad day at all. You got to be expecting some pullbacks. Now we'll see how this continuation goes. The bigger story, though, in my opinion, is going to be the oil story. So let's see how oil shapes up. But I'm watching this like a hawk, Like, I could care less about what SPY's futures are looking like. I'm more so waking up at 2 a.m. to look at oil futures. I feel like that's kind of how it seems. It seems like these days. Just seems very, very important to the CPI. Again, though, today was the last day of trading for May, so there's that. But, the averages, numbers are in. So the averages are going to be taken into account. And here we go. So what do we get on the month? Do we close? How do we close the month? How did SPY close the month? Green. Look at that. Believe it or not. Oh, shoot. I got rid of that. I didn't want to do that. Let me put that line back in. Actually, where was this from? 380? 380? Maybe not. I don't know. SPY, maybe it was a 4. Oh, no, it was 407, 408. Let me go put this guy back in here. It was the kind of the spot that I was watching right in here. But yeah, if we go to the monthly chart, believe it or not, we have had a green month on the S&P. Barely. We pretty much opened the month around the same spot we closed it, but barely higher. But we had a green month, believe it or not. So there's that. Finally, June. Outperform the markets, mission accomplished. Hey, that is not a bad thing at the end of the day. XBI is probably why the port was down. I'm definitely probably down because of XBI. Everything else was like, Honestly, maybe I was like flat today. XBI ended up down 3.25. Fine. This is going to be funny because if we do actually rally back up on markets going forward, XBI won't be a big one, I would say, to initially rally. But if we pick up steam, XBI will pick up steam and it will start to kind of really go. So yeah, maybe we get a bigger move later on. I'm not worried too much. Only thing I'd be worried about is I have September options. Even that is a far way out and things could change in a hurry. But that's the shortest option expirations I have is September for Labu. On half of my position on Labu, the other, actually less than half. I have a much larger position on the Januaries, which makes sense. So that's that. Green month. Drip call. So the drip is going to short your oil, right? I think it's an interesting idea. I do have to say, let's look at drip. Where is, geez, look at this chart. Let me try to zoom in a little better. I don't know why the chart's all wonked up. Yeah, here's a little bit better of a zoom. Drip is going to be your 2x bearish oil and gas ETF. So, it's real. I mean, look at this. It's really realistic, in my opinion, right? If oil tops here, or it doesn't have to top. It could just pull back from here because everyone's gotten a little too excited. It's the same thing. Oh, here it goes. And everyone's freaking out, panicking, and it's like, oh my God, end the world and in terms of oil. And then it starts to kind of reverse, at least in the short term. But if they can do something, worldwide, not just here in the US, like worldwide for the oil situation, like then maybe that can change. But and who knows what happens in Russia, Ukraine? Maybe there's a settlement at some point. I don't know. Which, if that happens, oil is dumping in a big way. But yeah, from where it's at right now, I think a good shot to $20, $19-20, about a 20% gain. Can you play call? How are the options chain here? Not tons of open interest, but the spreads aren't that big. Some of them aren't that big, so maybe there's some value on the drip play. I'd say shares are probably a better bet, if you ask me. But no, it's not a bad idea to short oil. Good risk reward down here, and just for me, it's like play it off of today's lows. So play it off of today's lows, play it off of the 120 on oil. If oil pops 120, okay, there you go. So with that said, let's just take a look at FinViz and then we'll wrap things up. What do we got? How do we finish the day off here? Breath-wise, under the surface, 33% of stocks advanced, 63 declined, 70% of stocks. Wow, we had more new highs than new lows, and we're back to 30% of stocks above their 50-period moving average, which is a good sign. and 21% above their 200-period moving average. So that's pretty good. Apple pretty flat, Microsoft pretty flat, Google, Amazon were two pretty strong days. Everything else kind of red-ish. So yeah, bigger. It was small caps and stuff like that took the bigger hits. Seems like. TNXP announces share repurchase program in the after hours. So take a look at that. How is that thing popping up? Is it moving? Let's see. TNXP's up 5-6%. Ooh, look at that thing go. She's going for more. Boom. There she's up 10% now. Boom. Could she make a run for $3? Give her the juice. Come on. Oh, that's a recent reverse stock split. Ooh, she's got a tighter float. She could totally go. She could totally go for a move. That used to be a great play. When stocks would have the reverse stock split, then they would release news like a week or two later, and they would run like crazy. Not anymore. Maybe that could turn around, but could be an interesting little play here off this TNXP if it holds up. But yeah, I'll see you guys I'll do a stream again tomorrow. I figure I might as well do this again tomorrow, and then we'll do Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday this week. That's the plan. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Thumbs up button. Any links, resources down below. TradingView trial, that's the platform we've been jumping back and forth to. I've been liking it because the futures, you can watch futures, the charts, all that stuff. Here it is. Connect your broker. I've connected my interactive brokers to that. Also a link for interactive brokers in the video description box down below. Check it out if you want. If you don't. But I've been just trying to diversify the brokers a little bit, trying different stuff out, getting a feel for other ones, shorting, going long, what's good for options, what's not. So getting a feel for things. I so far like the TradingView layout. So I've been using the pro version for now, and I see no reason to change that going forward. At least to have that as another